So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, part of the Simple Fund 360 Education Week series for 2024. My name is Rocco Agostino. I'm one of the lead account managers at BGL Corporate Solutions. So I'll be taking you through the Workpapers module in Simple Fund 360 this afternoon. We'll just go through a few housekeeping things before we get the schedule to get started. So I'll just move the slide across. So housekeeping. So what I've done for this afternoon is put everyone on listen only mode. The reason for that is we just want to ensure that everyone has the ability to hear me clearly, and it just avoids any background disturbances as well. But in saying that, you do have the Q&A box, which you can use to ask any questions. And we have Andre, Daniel, and a few other team members online this afternoon, which will attend to your questions throughout the session. So definitely use that tool, put your questions through, and they will answer them as quickly and as best as possible. Just the key one to take note of, the question we always get that pops up at the start of the webinar is, can I get a recording? Is it being recorded? The answer is yes, this webinar is being recorded, and anybody that's registered and anybody that attends will receive an email with a link to the recording, and it will also be put up on the BGL YouTube channel for future reference should you lose that link to the recording. The question that we got in the last webinar was, when will I get the recording? It normally takes 2 to 3 days for our marketing team just to make this webinar nice and pretty. And then they will send out the link via email and post it on our YouTube channel. So give it roughly 2 or 3 days before you receive the recording. If you don't receive anything, get back to us and we will send it to you to ensure you've got it. As I mentioned, this webinar is a part of series of webinars for Education Week for Simple Fund 360 for 2024. Last session which I ran was bulk entity setup dashboards and reporting, and the earlier session was pensions and deemed segregation. We're here for Workpapers just to close off today. But tomorrow, the last day of Education Week for 2024, we'll have optimizing operations with workflow jobs, document screen, reporting, and AI technology. If you attended my last webinar, I said this is one that you should attend or at least register for so you get the recording. There's some amazing stuff going on with the AI technology being inbuilt into Simple Fund 360, and there's a lot to come. So I definitely recommend if there's any session you register for that one, because that's going to be an exciting one there, and you'll definitely be blown away. You won't regret attending. You can trust me on that one. And then we will close off Education Week with best practice and fund processing. So they're the webinars that are left for Simple Fund 360 Education Week for this year. As I said, we're running Simple Fund 360 Education Week this week, but the following week we'll be running Education Week for Simple Invest 360. So if you are using Simple Invest 360, feel free to register for our Simple Invest 360 sessions, which will be run next week. If you're also a prospective client or someone that's sort of had a bit of a umming and ahhing about moving to Simple Invest 360, still register. You might get, or you will get, a lot of information from those sessions, and it may sway you to onboard some entities onto Simple Invest 360. So highly recommended you attend. And then the week after, the 14th to the 18th of October, will be CAS 360 Education Week. So if you are a user of CAS 360, definitely register for that as well. And I'll also open up to prospective clients that may be looking at CAS 360 for their corporate compliance and company compliance needs there as well. Again, lots of information will be delivered, and it may help you decide if CAS 360 is the solution for you moving forward as well. So highly recommend you view what the webinars that are left and you register for the ones that interest you. Okay, there are a few slides. I'll get through them very quickly because we've got a lot of material to cover this afternoon. So some prerequisites. The agenda is some prerequisites on how to generate workpapers. We'll go through workpaper settings and then best practice when it comes to workpapers in Simple Fund 360. The good news is, if you're a Simple Invest 360 user, all this is applicable for you as well. So we're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. So what you learn here can be used when preparing workpapers in Simple Invest 360 as well. So what are workpapers? So they're basically, workpapers in Simple Fund 360 allows you to store documents and record all evidence of the work that you've done for a financial year for an SMSF, and ensure you're complying with all the relevant laws during that financial year as well. So it's just a way of storing everything within one system. So the good thing is this module is included, so you don't have to pay for it. Common question that we get, is there a charge for workpapers in Simple Fund 360? No, it is inbuilt into the system. There is no third-party application, all within Simple Fund 360, and it's for all your funds and entities as well. Some prerequisites, as I mentioned earlier on. So in order to use Workpapers, you need to be invited into Simple Fund 360 and given the relevant user rights via the proper user roles. Workpapers, this one's important, should be generated at the end of the financial year. It's not all is lost if they are. I will show you what I mean by that as we go through the material. And as such, as we've said there, we recommend, or it's highly recommended, that you create entries before preparing any Workpapers or generating any Workpapers. It just ensures that the data that you are seeing in the Workpapers module is finalized data and it's at year end there. So we recommend creating entries. So what we'll look at as well is some Workpaper settings. I'm just flying through the slides because then I'll show you this in the software. So we're looking at the settings that are made from a firm-wide perspective. So we know a lot of clients when building Workpapers have their own way of doing things. So we've allowed for some flexibility and to make changes to suit your needs as well. We'll look at attaching certain generated system documents. So BGL will give you the default ones that can be run. You can remove them and you can add more that automatically get generated. And we'll look at refreshing Workpapers, and that goes what I was saying before, is when they should be run at year end and credit entries should be done. We recommend you do that, but if you forget to do so and then you do it after you've generated Workpapers, I'll show you how to refresh them to ensure you get updated balances on the Workpaper screen. And just the last slide, as I said, I just want to get these out of the way as well. So using Workpapers, what we'll cover is navigating Workpapers, some warnings, adding documentation through Workpapers, adding comments, checklist items, marking ready for review, and bulk update. I've said enough there. Let's jump into Simple Fund 360 and have a look. So, okay. So what I will do, very easy, is select my fund that I want to generate the Workpapers for, is the first step. For those that attended the webinar before, we went through the fund dashboard. Hopefully you got something out of that. But now we'll go into reports and Workpapers. As I mentioned, everyone will have access to this. It is inbuilt in the system and part of your default subscription. So there's no additional costs for this. So we've come into the Workpapers screen here, and this is where you generate the Workpapers, but we'll take a step back. As I mentioned before, is we need to ensure that people that should have access to Workpapers, so preparers, reviewers, auditors, are invited in. So just quickly, just to refresh everyone's memory, you would go into settings, invite new user, and you simply invite in the relevant parties through here. Assign them a user role. So I'll just use auditor just as an example. You can use any. I'm just using auditor just this afternoon, and invite the user, which is fantastic, excuse me. The next step, once you've invited in someone into Simple Fund 360, just check the user role. So what we recommend is going to admin, role settings. So in Simple Fund 360, we'll go into the role. I used auditor. And what we want to do is just scroll down, excuse me, to the reporting area. And just ensure that the Workpapers toggles are turned on. So we've got a few here. So we've got Workpapers read only if you want the person or the auditor in this case just to read the Workpapers and not make any changes, you can turn this on. If you want them to view and edit, you can turn this on. If you want them to be able to change your settings, preferably not if they're an auditor, you can turn this one on. And if you want the ability to lock and unlock Workpapers, you can turn this one on as well. So just as I mentioned, when you're inviting in a person, just cross-check the user role to ensure that they've got the relevant permissions, or else they won't be able to do the work in Workpapers. That's just the first couple of steps. So I'll go back into Simple Fund 360. So we're in the Workpapers screen. I've got access, which is good. This is what you will see if you've never used Workpapers in Simple Fund 360 for a particular fund. So this fund, I've never generated Workpapers in Simple Fund 360. So this is the screen I'll be greeted with. If you've done it before, you'd see the previous years. You click on Generate, select financial year, which I'll show you, and you'll be able to continue. So you click on Generate Workpapers. You'll be able to select the financial year you wish to generate the Workpapers for. I will just leave it as 2024. I'll put in the start date as today's date. It normally defaults to 1 week or 7 days from today. And then I've got the ability to select the preparer and the reviewer. As a note, these people on this list are people who I have invited or have been invited into this database for Simple Fund 360. If the person you want to be the reviewer isn't on this list, you'll just have to do what I showed you few moments earlier and invite them in. So just be mindful that this list is a list of users. Person's not here, they'll need to be invited in. So what we'll do is I will select Norman as my reviewer. Actually, no, I won't select Norman. I'll select Workpapers Reviewer and click on Generate. And what it will do is it will generate our workpapers there for us. Which is fantastic. So what it's done now, it's gone through, pulled data out of Simple Fund 360 and given us a trial balance on screen with each of the accounts that have data in them. Just a side note, which I don't have one to show you, is you may see where it says current year balance or CY balance, a $0 balance. The reason for that is that there have been transactions in that account throughout the year. They've just netted off to zero. So just be mindful, if you do see zero, it's not an error. It's just picking up that there has been transactions in that account and they still have to be reviewed, obviously, just to ensure they are correct. So what you will see on this screen is any account that has data in it or has had transactions go through it throughout this financial year. We show you the current year balance, last year balance, and a change. The reason we show you the last year balance is for an example like this one below. You can see there's been a small change in the market value compared here, but you think they purchased a share that went up highly. It sort of flags things to you that you may need to review and look into a little bit further. So some of them 100% changes because there was nothing in the last year, but that last year balance and the change column may indicate to you things that you should be looking at in greater detail. Just quickly, general navigation around this particular screen. What will happen is it will timestamp when the work papers were created and last refreshed. You can see here at 3:40 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time because we are in Melbourne. It will give you the financial year that you are working on. You can flick it across to any other financial year you wish to do so. So you can prepare work papers for prior years and future years, not just the current year. So I can click on Generate Work Papers again, excuse me, and go into 25 financial year if I wanted to. I'm not going to do that from here. We've also got some filters on the screen which are quite powerful. So you can filter your to-do list, what's in progress, what's ready for review, what's completed, any comments or any accounts with warnings. So I can click on that and it'll bring up all the ones with warnings that I need to review there. So you've got some quick filters on the screen there for you. So what we want to do is we're assuming that we've created entries throughout the year and done all that. So we've finalized the year. Now we want to check everything. So what we'll do is we'll begin checking one account. I'm not going to check everything because we'll be here till tomorrow. And I know people want to go home and leave their office. So what we will do is we'll use the 238 distributions received account and then they apply the same logic for the remaining accounts. So I click into this account and what it will do is it will bring through the transactions throughout that particular period. So I've only got the one in this one just to keep it simple. So as you can see at the top, you've got the preparer, you've got the reviewer, and you've got the status as not started. Leave that there for a moment. But what you can do from here is you can attach source documents to this particular item. There's a few different ways you can do it. So you can attach the document against the particular transaction, or you can attach the document against the particular account here. What I'll do is I'll just attach it to the particular transaction because I've got a transaction. This document I have is transaction specific. So I just click to browse. I will go on my desktop and I should have a tax statement. And I'll just click touch and upload. And what will happen is it will be uploaded here against my transaction here. So I can click on transactions and you can see it's been attached to that particular transaction there. If I want to complete the circle with you, what we can do is we can open up the document screen. And the good news is this one has been filed against 238 and Vanguard in our document screen there for you. So it's all there ready for you to go in here. So touching your work papers attaches it in the document screen for you. So we're completing the loop there. So the next thing that we will look at is we will look at ticking the box just to say that we've worked on this one, we've attached the document. But then what I mentioned earlier on is that you can also generate reports from here. So you can generate the distribution reconciliation report and the investment income report from here. By default, There's no need for you to add these. They're generated automatically for you based on your settings or default settings in this particular case as well. So they're all generated there, which you can click on and view. You can also attach URLs from here as well, or any additional documents against there as well. So if you've got a URL to a tax ruling that you may have used for a particular calculation, you can give it a name and put it in there as well to form part of your work papers. As we make our way down, we've got some warnings and observations that tells us that there's something that we may need to do before continuing here. So we can click on this, just to assume that we've done it. We haven't done it. We won't go through distribution tax automation. It's a webinar in its own right that needs to be, it can be done for another hour or so. And then we've got our standard checklist. What we can do is we can tick off these items that we've done, all of them there as well. Based on client feedback, they've told us that they want to be in control of the checklist. So what you can do is you can add custom checklist items. So add bank statement and click on add. I've created an additional checklist item specific for this particular work paper in here, which I can treat similar to the other one and tick. I've also got the ability to add notes in here. So I can say, please request bank statement from client. And then I can specify for which account. So I just select that one and click on add note. And that note is in there, which forms part of my work paper. So that is going through and checking off items under this particular account. What I can then do is you can see that because I've ticked the box, it's given the work paper status in progress. I've got the ability to change this for ready for review or whatever it may be. So I'll just change this to ready for review and put that in ready for review. So what I'll do now is we'll just quickly go back to the dashboard. And we can see that is there ready for review. And you work your way down the list in similar fashion there. What I will do is before I progress with anything further, I'll just show you a few little tricks or nice features that we have as part of the work paper. So if you go down to your tax account 85000, what we've given you the ability to do in this work paper, so it looks the same as the other one, but we've got this nifty little feature where you can click on generate tax reconciliation. So you can do a tax reconciliation on screen within the work paper. So click on that and it's done that reconciliation there for me, which I can then add in any adjustments if I need to do so. And I can include it in the work paper export once it's been done. So just a little feature that's been added in there, which you can take note of. Going back to the work papers. And if you scroll down, we've got these sections here, A to E, where you can attach documents which will be carried forward from year to year and form part of your future periods work papers. So you've got estate planning, you can add a will in there. If you've purchased property, you can put in the purchase contracts in here, and they'll all be carried forward for you. So these are trial balance items. They're purely there so you can attach documents in there. So I've got, click on financial statements. We've got notes to financial statements, but I can attach additional financial statements in here if I need to do so for whatever reason as well. All right. So what I've done here, let's assume what I will do is, don't do this, but what you can do is you can do a bulk update. I haven't checked everything, but you can pretend that I have. And what I want to do is bulk update the status to ready for review. And you can do that for any status there. Now what I want to do is I want to notify the reviewer. So I want to, which is work paper reviewer. So I can click on entities ready for review. And what that will do is it will send me an email. So we'll just wait for that to come through. Which it has. So I've got my email here. Me as the reviewer. Just pretend I'm also the reviewer. And what it will give me is a link to log into Simple Fund 360. So I'll just grab this link and put it into another browser. Oh. Doesn't seem to want to work, but you would put that link into another browser. The reviewer would log in and begin reviewing the fund there for you. So we'll just pretend that that has worked. I've come in as the reviewer, and what I can do is I can go through and check all these items here. So I can click on the comments and see where comments have been made and tackle this one. So we'll tackle this one. So I can see the comments that have been made. I can see a checklist that's been ticked off. So I can see here, please request bank statement. I can click on this one saying done as the reviewer. Click on reply, and that stays in there. It's all ready to go. And then as the reviewer, I can also go into here and click on completed for that one, and then move on to the next one, so on and so forth. What we can then do from here is look at our export options. So exporting this out of Simple Fund 360. So you can export the work papers, which I will do just to show you. So what we will do is just have a quick look. So we've got our lead schedule there. We've got our distributions received. So you can see here, we've got our standard checklist. Everything's been ticked off. I didn't use any URLs. We've got the reports up the top there. The notes are part of that. Distribution reconciliation report is there. Investment income report is part of that. And the tax statement, which I uploaded, also part of that. So you can see here, everything's part of the export all in one system. You've got the work paper system, document management system, storing these source documents, and then they're all brought together when you export the work papers. The other export options are you can just export the notes, export the schedules, export the documents only, or you can export the selected options. Sorry, the selected accounts only. So you can just click on export selected and do that from here. All right, so what I will do is I'll show you what happens when you make a change to the fund and the work papers have already been generated. So what I'll do is I'll go into accounting. I will just edit my 238 transactions just so we can use the same account. So I'll just edit this for whatever reason. There's no reason for me doing this. I'm just editing this one. 150. And save. And save. It's fine. And what I will do is I'll go back into reports and then work papers. And what you need to do is good practice is just to refresh your work papers, just to ensure you're working on the latest version of the data. So what will happen is you receive a warning message. Anything that's been set as completed, which I have, my 238, will be all ready for review, will be set to rework required automatically because a change has happened and you need to review this one. So we'll say okay. And we've got a little button here telling us it's been updated and that rework is required because a change was made against that account. There, so you can see, as I mentioned, if you are using work papers, every time you come in, I'd click on this and just make it become second nature, just to ensure you are working on the latest, or the latest data is populated on this screen. Is something I would be doing. So you can see how the system is working with you. Make a change, it will tell you there's something that you need to now relook at because a change was made there for you. There are a few questions. Some might be support questions. With no BGL tends to automatically bring in distribution dividend statements prior years and attach them to current year work papers. Is there a way to stop this from happening? I would probably log a support call. Andre is typing back. Can we go over the warnings in work papers? You can, yes. So if you click on warnings, filter those, you've got them all here, and then just click into the work paper and it will tell you what the warnings are. Is there a better use of the feature for the external audit instead of emailing them the year-end reports, trial balance? Yes, so what you would do is under notify, you would click on notify. Normally there's notify auditor here, and you can notify the auditor from this one. I don't have an auditor attached to this fund, but you can notify the auditor from here. Are there different work papers bookmarked in the final work paper pack? We'll probably have to get back to you on that one. Is there a way when downloading exploring work papers for bookmarks to be applied to make it a lot simpler? We're looking at improving that. So that's something we're looking at improving in the future when it comes to work papers. And we've got someone else answering the last question. So I'll keep going. So the next part to look at is work paper settings. So as I mentioned, you can do this at a global level. So as I said at the start, work papers are for SMSFs, trusts, companies, individuals if you're using Simple Invest 360, and you've got different settings for each entity type. So as I said, distributions received. You can see here you've got the distribution report and the investment income report automatically generated when we run the work paper for that particular account. So what we can do, for example, let's say we don't want the income statement, and we just want the CGT register, for example, we can set that up from here. We want checklist items, get bank, and we can add that to the checklist there, and it also fixes up my spelling, as you can see. And this will now form part of the default or the template for 238 when I come in. So I can click on save. And then when I regenerate work papers for this particular fund, just refresh it. Those items should be on that list. There, so you can see distribution reconciliation report is there. The other one hasn't come through, but it will come through when you regenerate the work papers for this particular fund. So those settings are global settings which you can use to customize the work papers to your needs there as well. So you've got the whole list of changes there for you there that you can make in the work paper screen. So that brings us to the conclusion of the webinar. There are a few questions here which I will read through. So Daniel was answering that one. Is there a way when exploring work papers? Yeah, so bookmarks, as I mentioned, that one is on our wish list. What are the warnings about how to fix? So the warnings are basically anything that is outstanding that needs to be done. So to fix them is very easy. So I'll just go into my work papers again and filter by warnings. Normally there's a link to the screen that you need to be looking at. So I've got a warning in 238. Typically I haven't put in my tax data for this particular one. I've received a distribution or distribution income, but I haven't put the tax components in. I simply click on the link in the warning and it takes me to the area that I need to address. So that's how you would fix the warning. If you use work papers and you transfer a fund to a new accountant, will they see? So we've added that. That was the feedback that we received. So if you are transferring funds between accountants, there is now an option to transfer the work paper, which you can toggle on. If it's on, it will transfer the work paper. If it's toggled off, it won't transfer the work paper. So that was feedback that we took on board, and we've just added a toggle where you can now transfer the work papers if you wish to do so. You never could, but now you can. Is there a way to tag items in work papers? For example, CBA dividend tag to a source document so review can be done quickly. Tagging is if you upload a document, for example, in the document screen. You would normally upload it against the proper account and it will flow through to the work paper as well. So it's already there without you having to upload it. So, and in here, you've got the tag, for example, work papers as well. So you know it's come from work paper. So you can tag it from the document screen once you've uploaded it through here as well. If you upload it through work papers, a tag gets assigned automatically. Where are the Andre's typing that one back. If documents are attached to transactions which have multiple accounts, they are added multiple times to the work papers. Is there a way to avoid this, especially when the document is large? if documents are attached to transactions which have multiple accounts. Don't understand that question. Transactions with multiple accounts. Okay, so probably what I'm getting at is a transaction we've got, multiple line items in there, and you're attaching documents for each specific item. So I don't have one to show you here. Sort of. So I've got two buys in here. If I'm attaching the two contract notes to this one, it's attaching that here two attachments against there. At this stage, no, there's no real solution for that one. So there's no way to avoid it at this point, but you can add it through our feedback button. And we can add it to the wish list for you.